Welcome back, Ravens flock, to another episode of Ravens Across the Pond. You'll see tonight joining me, the usual suspects, DT, Nathan and Richard. How are we, gents?
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
great to be here.
And you'll notice the man is back from his travels. He is none other than the man who helped Kevin McAllister's mum get home when Kevin was home alone. He was the great loving uncle in Uncle Buck. He's feel the rhythm. He's felt the ride. Get on up, it's bobsleigh time. And most recently, he's been in a very current remake of Planes, Trains and Automobiles. It's our very own John Candy. Welcome, Ollie.
I'm back with a vengeance.
Jet lag?
Bit of jet lag. I'm surviving. Got back to a child thrown into my arms, which was great. I love her, but I was so tired. Yeah, great time all in all. Got the W. Saw lots of sights. Made lots of new friends. Been great, and Dad survived. So yeah, all in all a good trip.
Fair
You
enough.
can't have everything, Collie.
Yeah, we'll dive into your trip in a bit, but I want to cover the Ravens win against the Dolphins on Thursday night. They turned in a dominant performance, 28-6. Lamar Jackson was back. He was in top form, out with a hamstring injury for 3 games. Dominant with the pass. The connection with Mark Andrews was back. The defense looks like it's continuing this, turning a corner. And we had a discussion this week about was it just like a flash in the pan, weaker teams and all that. But I really thought that the performance at the weekend was phenomenal by the defense, and I think it stands us in good stead. You look at the run of fixtures coming up now. The Ravens really have a chance to flip the season around and not just become playoff contenders, but they can play themselves back into being actual contenders to try and win the lot. So, gents, what did we take away from that Dolphins game? What stood out?
Well, the biggest thing for me really would be finally winning the turnover battle. It's really hard to win football games when the other team is taking the ball off you on your possessions. And, you've referenced the 3 turnovers that our defense pulled off. That defense kind of looked quite scary, didn't it? And, appreciate the Dolphins are a bit of a dumpster fire, but if they can continue to turn the ball over, we saw Marlon get back to his fruit punch best. Alohi Gilman is really making an impact. What a trade by EDC. We have got a real chance to take the AFC North and get ourselves back in that playoff picture.
I think I agree in terms of the aggressiveness we've seen. I think that's going to be so important when we get to those North games, just being able to turn up with that same level of aggressiveness and really take the game to them. I think, defensively we touched upon it in our last pod, but seeing the rookies really step up. We saw it with Green stepping up against the Bears. Now we're seeing Starks having an absolute fantastic game. Obviously, we know Buchanan was, we already saw the props before that game, and he's taken that and made some huge plays in this game as well. So, yeah, really good to see everyone kind of really coming together with aggressiveness and playing Ravens defense.
Yeah, it was a much better second half from the Ravens. I think the first half, Miami surprisingly actually seemed to kind of have their way with us a little bit on offense, and I think that part of it was down to Tua's kind of quick release style. I think he was getting a lot of passes out quickly, and his first read was open quite a lot in the first half, but that completely changed in the second half. And I think we were probably just about had the edge on it in the first half. But yeah, the second half, things changed. Tua didn't get his first read. As it takes him longer to get the ball out, he tends to then kind of collapse under his own kind of thought process a bit. So yeah, we were a lot better in the second half at stopping that first read, which allowed Lamar to do his thing. 4 touchdowns wasn't quite the Jackson 5, Tom, that you predicted. But it was a Jackson 4. He could have had 5.
I did. I will say, and obviously it's on record because it's on Spotify, because it hasn't been took down off Spotify because we haven't got an introduction. Fuck you, copyright. I did say in the last pod.
Ollie's song, I did copyright of one of the podcast members' songs that we are not allowed to use apparently because Ollie, have you been reporting us?
Yeah, probably.
No,
probably has. Calm
Right,
down,
Shaggy.
Shaggy. I did say in the score prediction that we will restrict Miami to 6.
You did say
I
that,
wasn't,
to be fair.
I wasn't far off at all. In terms of the first half, and Nathan, you touched on there that, kind of two of the Miami offense kind of maybe had a bit of a run on us in that first half. For me, looking at the offense, if that first half was about Lamar Jackson shaking off the rust, then the second half was about Derrick Henry and the offensive line taking absolutely control. They rushed for 13 yards on 10 carries in the first half. But in the second half, Henry finished the night with 119 yards on 19 carries, averaging 6.3, and 3 runs at 35, 19, and 13. And it just completely flipped the field position. And it did drain. We were draining Miami's defense. So once we established the run, the offense opened up. Kind of the Dolphins' pass rush was non-existent. And Todd Monkhan calling some play action. It was deadly. I thought tight ends, I mentioned Mark Andrews in the introduction, played a huge role. Not just Mark Andrews, though. Isaiah Likely, he provided a spark. And I go back to the Kevin Oshtiker episode and the clip that we put out on socials when we were talking about Isaiah Likely, and we were, Kevin was like, he's coming back from injury, they're managing his workload, and we should soon start to see a huge upturn in his form, and that was evident the other night. Charlie Kohler added another score and touchdown, 2 games on the bounce. I thought, the offense was phenomenal. Obviously, having a superstar quarterback like Lamar Jackson coming back is going to do that. But again, if you take the whole game into consideration with the defense, offense, just an all-round team performance again, and this is what we need to see. As I say, playing playoff football since the last weekend in October, we're trending in the right direction.
Absolutely. And apologies to Todd Monkhan, who's been getting a bit of flack over kind of the first half of the season, but the second Mark Andrews touchdown, the mesh route he ran, which basically caused 2 Miami defenders to run into each other and leave Mark wide open, was a beautifully thought at play. It had to be an absolute thing, and that's why kind of Lamar looked and saw him wide open. It was a great play call, and I think with a fuller cast back, Todd Monkhan's able to go back into his box of tricks. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more Keaton Mitchell. I understand the psychology of getting Derrick Henry over 100 yards for the game, but obviously Keaton Mitchell didn't get the touches as a result of that. And I think going forward, I know we've got to win some games, but it can only be a good thing getting them a bit more balanced. I'm not calling for 50-50. That would be absurd, but maybe give Keaton Mitchell maybe 20% of the running plays just to keep it fresh, because one of them can kill you one way, one of them gets you the other way, and it keeps things, keeps defenses on their toes.
Yeah, I'd love to see those routes being ran. And, Todd Monkhan's obviously a fan of the podcast. He's been listening to the criticism. Todd, I know you're listening, so well done on listening to my feedback and improving upon it, continuous improvement and all that. Really looking forward to seeing Mitchell get into the ball a bit more. I said to you guys at the time, I had a bet on that was ridiculous odds, and obviously if you replicate this, gamble responsibly, but having Mitchell with 50 plus yards, Hamilton with a sack, and Ricard to score a touchdown was 1,000 to 1, which I think I'm going to do that every single game going forward, because the stars are going to align. It's not that bad for that long of an odds. I think it's possible.
We've talked about the coaching staff, haven't we? And is John Harbaugh the leader we need? And actually, in these situations, he absolutely shines. The team has its back to the wall. You need to win or you're out. I don't know if there's a better motivator in the NFL in those situations. The team have come out the last 2 games. They've played so hard, right? We know that we are still struggling on pass rush, but in the previous weeks, the defense was folding, and now they're not. They're standing stout. The scenes in the locker room afterwards, that struck me as a really, happy, excited place to be. I think everyone's had a hard look at themselves in that building, and I think we're seeing a different mindset now with the team. They are not the favourites to win the Super Bowl anymore. They are not sweeping everyone before them. And we are really seeing that fighting spirit come out.
And John threw a successful challenge flag. We haven't seen that in, I don't remember how long. He threw a successful challenge flag, disrupted the play, and we won it as well. Even if we didn't win it, it probably was a tactical move. But hey, like, we won it. I haven't seen that for a long time.
What is he now?
Yeah,
like 2-48 on challenge flags?
Similar to that,
them successful challenge flags from John Harbaugh are as rare as rock and roll shit. Go just flipping it, onto defense. We had talked about this and mentioned in the introduction that in the last pod, we were kind of like, is this a true reflection of where the defense is at the moment with the strength of schedule? But you look at it, the criticism earlier on, I'd mentioned, I think it was 35 points per game we were averaging giving away on defense. The last 2 weeks it's changed. Chicago Bears held them to 16. Obviously held the Dolphins to 6 on Thursday night, which I successfully predicted. I'm going to milk that cow dry. And also, we forced 2 fumbles and an interception, which coincidentally matched the most turnovers recorded in a game since we played Miami in 2023.
There you go. Miami is the ultimate get-right game.
And as we know, teams that go on and win championships or pennants, they don't just have explosive offenses. They have the ability to stop games dead when needed. And the Ravens defense is doing that at this moment in time. Kyle Hamilton, superb again. I know, Nathan, you mentioned Marlon Humphrey. Looking back to the Marlon Humphrey that we all love and like, not the Marlon Humphrey that goes on podcasts and talks tripe. The irony in me saying that, you know what I mean?
And my boy Teddy Buchanan, keeping up his October 8 tackles again today, doing very well.
Yeah, I just look at this Ravens team now, and obviously the changes that they made. We discussed the incoming trade the other day and how that is kind of freed up Kyle Hamilton. And you just look at how Kyle Hamilton is playing defense. Like, he is playing defense how it is meant to be played, hard, like running through people, wanting to take heads off. Like, this is a guy that we said it earlier on, because he came earlier on in the season. He came under criticism because of the comments, the spoiled comments we all know about them, and the money that we were paying him, and we kind of hadn't seen that from him. But since that move's been made and the changes have been made across the defense, we're finally seeing the Kyle Hamilton that we know he can be.
I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because, Kyle Hamilton was being asked to play in a deep safety role because, frankly, he was the best man for the job. But if your deep safety is making loads of plays, that kind of suggests that there's something going wrong. And I think we all spoke about the absence of plays in a way showed he was doing that role well. But, you're effectively asking him to be 70% of himself in that role. Whereas in this kind of hybrid linebacker role that he's now playing close to the line of scrimmage, box safety, he can really make the most of his talents and absolutely show why he's now the highest paid safety in the NFL by quite a margin.
Yeah, as I was saying there about like how hard Kyle Hamilton plays, I don't know whether he's had a running with DT this week, because DT got a mark on your neck there. Does Kyle Hamilton give you a bite or something?
Rash, yeah, I think it was that. Kyle Hamilton, he did, the absolutely perfectly fine play when he got flagged for that blindside block, which, he came around. It wasn't quite blindside. He wasn't quite parallel. He was running the right way. But I think, he was practicing on me before that just to make sure he got it right without a flag. But, refs weren't on our side that time, apparently.
Thank you, Nathan, for pointing that one out. Ollie, you've been pretty quiet. What are your thoughts?
Resilience of the defense. It was just back for me. Like at the first half, Miami's run game, it was working to an extent. They were getting some good breaks. You could say somewhere, breakaway with breakaway speed, but we sort of galvanized on it and didn't allow them to get a foothold in the game with it. And like in previous games, like look back to Detroit against the Lions, when they got their run game and heads were down. It wasn't just sort of the D line's heads that were down. It was everyone, and it was nice to see that nobody's heads dropped, and we just kept at them, and lo and behold, we got the dub in the end. But no, I was super impressed by that. It felt like a turning point with the D the other day on Thursday.
Are we all in agreement with like turning points for the defense, where none of us are thinking like this is a kind of a, I don't know what to say. A single swallow does not a summer make. We start. Is this a continuing trend? Because you look at it now. Ravens are 3-5. You look at the next 4 opponents: away at Minnesota, away at the Browns, then the Jets and Bengals are home. Both of them, all 4 of them teams, combined record of 9-22.
So breaking
this
the
defense, this offense scoring, this presents a immense opportunity for the Ravens to turn their season around, and as I said in the intro, become contenders again.
Yeah, and so breaking the 4-4, it's 40 minutes before the early slate games play, so I will be keeping an eye on the Vikings this week to see how JJ McCarthy does, as he seems like he will be the starter next week. So it looks like the next 3 offenses potentially aren't going to be ones that are going to be causing us too many problems, although it is Justin Jefferson, it is Jordan Addison, Jordan Mason's been going well, TJ Hawkinson's a threat. So I don't think next week will be as easy as the last two we've faced, but yeah, I don't see the Browns or Jets causing much of an issue. And then we'll see how Joe Flacco decides to treat us when we play them twice in 3 weeks. So I think if we are getting caught out, we're not getting caught out anytime soon.
I think for me, I don't know that anyone can be expecting this defense to turn into the best defense in the NFL, but what we need is competency. I think if they can be an average defense in the NFL, then we have the firepower with Lamar Jackson in the offense to still win a lot of games.
Yeah, I think it's a real testament to how the coaching's been and how the leadership's been. Roquan's back to his OG self, where he's really putting in some great tackles. He's really leading. He's shown to be a force. He had a bit of criticism, some points last season and obviously earlier this season, but he seems back to be with a force. And obviously we've spoken enough about the Gilman trade, but that was a coaching move rather than a player move. That's enabled Hamilton to be his best self. There are some questions for me around Gilman, and he's not necessarily been signed to be a great tackler. You saw, I always look at the feedback from fans of the opposing team when we get a trade or whatever, and they were kind of joyous that he'd left. And we've seen quite a few missed tackles, but he's not there to be necessarily relied on purely for tackling. He was brought in to free up Hamilton, and I think we're backing him up. There's probably some work to do in getting that grease off his hands, but it's all just helping to really bring this team together, and we've got some great time to jump in and make some moves in the trade room.
Coincidentally, it's funny you should say that, because we're going to move on to trade deadline approaching. Jair Alexander was scratched from the game on Thursday night. He was a non-injury. We know the situation that came from that. So was it the Friday after the game? The Ravens went and added some more draft capital. Oh no, it was Saturday. Added more draft capital on Saturday.
It was a Saturday
so they
trade,
dealt Jair Alexander and a 2027 7th round selection to the Eagles, and in return they got a 2026 6th round. So I think that pick that we got off the Eagles actually belonged to the Broncos. So when you look at that trade, I was trying to kind of on YouTube the other day look at Jair Alexander's plays as a Baltimore Raven. He only played twice, and the only play that I could really find was the play against the Bills, where he kind of lost his foot and slipped, but still managed to make a tackle. So, if anything, what the Ravens has done is they've moved on from a disappointing. He was disappointing. They've moved on from a disappointing signing from the off-season. They've got a favourable pick swap, and it doesn't hurt the Ravens at all. As I say, he's only played two times for the Ravens this year. And for Philadelphia, it's a great move for them because they needed a buy low for a secondary that is absolutely desperate, crying out for help. It's added, obviously, it's added draft capital, but it's also generated some cap space where now the Ravens, as they come to approach the deadline, are in a position to go out and get some pieces that can improve and continue this push to be contenders come the end of the season. I mean, guys, thoughts on Jair Alexander at first, and then thoughts on the trade, and how do you think the Ravens are going to approach this deadline now?
There's 14 mil in cap space. I imagine if you asked EDC at the time what he wanted to do with that cap space, that he would want to roll it and use some of that money to deal with Lamar's contract next year when the cap hits start getting a bit tasty. But I think you have to kind of roll with the punches sometimes. Maybe use some of that this year, do something along the lines. Obviously, we save a little bit more money with the Jair Alexander trade. There are some people you can still, I mean, even if you wanted to this year with Lamar, you could still rework some of the money this year and get a little bit more. So you're going to have to give Lamar a new deal next season at some point because the cap hits are starting to come a bit too weird. So he's got all the leverage anyway. So if you want to convert some of that money, you might as well do it now. So yeah, I think there's plenty of money there, plenty of picks. I think the real question is we're still not overly sure who the sellers are going in to this weekend. I think a lot of teams that lose will help that out. We'll get a good idea of who's available, and maybe someone along the trenches will become available, as we've been talking about numerous times over the last week.
Yeah,
Glad he's gone.
I think it's one of those. I heard a fantastic point by a friend of the pod, Danzai. He kind of said, when you go shopping in bargain bins, you pull out a lot of trash, right? And I think that's true. And EDC has had a lot of success in those bargain bins. And obviously this time he hasn't. I don't think this hurts the team in any way. I suppose... yeah, are we going to use some of that stuff to make a trade? So a name that we've been linked with would be Kevin Zeitler on the offensive line, and I don't think anyone would be opposed to a reunion, apart from possibly the Titans, because obviously you need to evaluate Cam Ward, and therefore Cam Ward has to stay upright. But for me, I think Lamar can make it work with the offensive line that we have. We desperately need somebody on that D line, don't we? And I know that we signed Lawson to the P squad, and presumably he's going to be ramping up. But we just need somebody that can get consistent pressure on the quarterback.
Ollie, did you have anything to say before Richard cut you off?
I said all I need to say. He's been disappointing. I was really excited at the start of the season, and he's just been about as useful. I don't know. He's just been shit, and I don't like him. I don't like his aura.
To be fair, even that tackle that Tom called out where he slipped on, like actually the smart footballing move would have been to not make that tackle because it allowed the Bills to just drain more clock. So just he's done nothing but fuck us over, and we managed to get 2 million cap space for Jair, an extra pick to add to the bundle of picks that we've got. So let's go spend them. Let's boost the O-line, because although Lamar can do it, he's still struggling with a hamstring injury. He's just come off the back of that, which is not something to fuck with. So let's give him a bit of protection on the O-line, get Zeitler home. Let's do it.
May I just add on from what you mentioned about Lamar then? Did anybody else get the feeling like he was nursing it at the start of in the first and second quarter?
100%.
Like he was taking a sack. He wasn't trying to go on some crazy runs. I thought it was like managed really well. Do you know what I mean?
He was definitely hesitant, himself. I think. Yeah. I think you're right. I think he was hesitant running.
Managed, bit of rust. He hadn't practiced much, had he? Obviously, he's missed 3 games. And also he's coming into a high pressure environment. The pressure is always going to fall on Lamar's shoulders because he's a superstar. He's the best dual threat quarterback the league's ever seen. He is one of the best quarterbacks that the league's ever seen, regardless of the argument of rings or whatever. The facts speak for themselves. So the pressure, if he'd come into the game and, unlike Lamar, throw an interception and put us on the back foot early doors, that pressure just ramps up. So I think it was mad as well. I think the play calling was excellent. As DT said, I think Todd Monkhan has been listening to the pod. Everybody else is. So, may as well join in, Todd. The numbers are fantastic. So, yeah, I just think Rust kind of managing it and just managing expectations. Just, game, a lot of it as well. Game management. Let's just, see where we are. Because the Dolphins, as much as an absolute garbage fire that they are, they could have been dangerous. After that game, they've moved on from the GM. I think he was the GM there for 25 years, and they've all there's rumours that they're going to be kind of shopping Waddle about for the trade. So it's a dangerous team, but a shit show of an environment that the Ravens were going into. I fully expect that there to be no rush, no kind of game management come the game next weekend now, because we've obviously played on Thursday. Just touching on the drafts, the Ravens now have 5 picks between the 5th and 6th rounds next year. So there is plenty of picks. A 5th gets Zietler done, but again, are the Titans going to want to trade them? Because as Nathan said, they're going to want to have a good look at Cam Ward and evaluate him. 2, the Titans hate fucking Eric DeCosta after the whole Derek Henry thing, so why would he do a deal with it? So yeah, it'll be interesting. Deadline is on Tuesday. Fully expected there to be a good few moves to improve the Ravens. Right, now we've chatted the Dolphins game, obviously, because this is only a recap episode. Ollie wasn't present for the podcast to review the Bears game. That is because he was in Charm City to watch the Ravens play the Bears via New York. Hence the plane, trains, and automobiles. Ollie, how was the trip, mate? Was it your first time? I know your dad's been to Baltimore.
Yeah, my first time there, and it's a beautiful place, isn't it? It's absolutely stunning in the right areas, like most places. But the trip got off to a bit of an interesting start after being told that we were on a flight that was overbooked. I think they'd changed the plane, so me and my father had to fly to somewhere 300 miles away, roughly 300 miles away from Baltimore, a small little city called New York. So yeah, we got there, and then the next morning we had to get the train from New York to Baltimore. Then there was obviously quite a few things planned for the old trip. One of them being sort of the college game day on the Saturday, and that was for the Navy. So Tom would have loved that, being an ex-sailor himself. That was great. It was Navy versus Florida Atlantic. Is that right? Or Atlantic? Everyone kept getting the name mixed up, but they won 42-32. That was an interesting, seeing how the forces are done over here and sort of being brought up, surrounded by it with all the sort of showmanship and like in the UK, it's not quite as what's the word, prevalent.
Navy went 7-0, aren't they, on the season?
Smashing
Navy.
it. I mean, they're not playing the highest caliber of opponents, but you go into a team with a sort of good winning streak and a hot streak. But yeah, that was interesting. They have a strange tradition of every time they score points, all the sort of people who are at college as well get down and do some push-ups for it. So by the end of the game, they had to do 42. So I would not be doing that. I can tell you that.
How many did you knock out? 4.2
on a good day, mate. Talking press-ups, yeah.
More like 4 and 2.
Yeah. Let's be careful of the term knockout.
Yeah, knocking. There was nothing knocked out over that trip. So
come on.
Then the next day we headed to M&T Bank Stadium and took part in the tailgate, which is, it's a strange thing for sort of UK lads or lasses to go to. It's a piss up in a park, isn't it? Normally you're at the pub with your mates over here, but it's like organised crazy event, loads of free food, too many free drinks. and I mean too many. And got to meet Terrell Suggs, which was he is a thick boy. He's
Can we send him that clip, please? I don't know if he's ever been described
it's
that way before.
spelled THICC. Yeah, that thick.
Yeah, not thick as in, yeah, let's not get us cancelled.
As in Dan's eye. I know he's going to be listening to this tonight.
Yeah, but I sort of thought at that moment, if there was a fire, I'd want to be carried out over his shoulders. It was one of those sort of moments. But yeah, then we watched the game, and that was, from what I remember, that was great. I lost my voice. I couldn't talk properly the next day, and I couldn't really remember much either, and still can't. But yeah, then we did a stadium tour. There's a wonderful photo of me on John Harbaugh's toilet, which is fantastic, his personal toilet, where he probably contemplated a lot of things.
Do you think when he sat on the throne in there, do you think he's saying to himself, come on, John, who's got it better than us?
He must do. And then the instant relief. But yeah,
he never
his
struggles with any kind of bowel movements. He just knows everyone's got it better than him. No one's got it better than him on the toilet, so he's absolutely fine.
It was impeccably clean as well. There was no skids or anything. So
Jesus Christ,
because he abandoned the run game.
The runs game. But yeah, then after the stadium tour, we came back, and I flew to Heathrow, which was wonderful. I didn't know whether we'd be booted off the next plane and go Heathrow via Saudi Arabia or something like that. That would But the best part of the first flight was getting upgraded to World Traveller Plus, and then getting made to feel like the poor person in World Traveller Plus, not being able to decide what we had for food, and they're like, "I'll come back to you when we've done everyone else." All right, I feel super poor now. But yeah, good time. Good time.
Did you manage to get to Miss Shirley's for breakfast?
No, I did not. I don't even remember where we went for breakfast, but there was some tonk-ass breakfast, like pancakes and sausage and stuff. It was good, and then not for my bowels, but other than that, it was great. Then we had a nice bagel from, I think it was called John's Bagels, proper inventive name, but it was great. Yeah.
What did you think then? Obviously, I know you'd experienced college atmosphere. Your first NFL game in the States. What did you think of the experience? I mean, if you can remember, because you did send a video into the group chat. I think probably about 11 o'clock Eastern time, requesting somebody send help.
I saw that the other day when I was going through the photos and videos of my missus. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Trying to find two sizzle.
Yeah. The atmosphere, it's so unlike anything over here. I mean, I've done loads of football games over here. Used to be a big rugby lad back in the day, and rugby's a bit more sort of drinking festival culture type all around the stadium. And it was so much different to that. I love the whole idea about, the tailgate, the paid tailgate is not just for sort of home fans, visiting fans going there. It's a super, super relaxed, but obviously American and an exuberant experience.
Is that a goat?
No, talking about goats. It's my dog Daphne that's just walked in.
DT's on mute, he's miming.
You definitely did say tail goats rather than tailgate the first time, so I was going to pull you up on it, but then
no, it was the tail goat. There was lots. No, do you know what the mascot of the Navy is? You couldn't write it. It was a goat, and I was asking this, and the goat was getting retired. I mean, think of this what you want, but the goat was getting retired that game. So I don't know whether that's a bolt retired.
You love a retired goat, don't you?
Oh, bless us. Oh God.
Do you think the Navy carted them out of there in a wheelbarrow with a sheet over his head?
They might have done. They might have done. But no, it was a cool looking goat. It wasn't a boa goat. It was a different type of goat. But yeah, I asked an American guy in front of me, what's the significance of the goat? Did it repel so many British forces, somewhere like years ago. And he said, no, he goes, it's just a goat. And then he was telling me about if you go to the college campus and you go, have you been to New York? Have you been to the ball down at, yeah. So what's the most popular end to have a photo at? It's where its balls are, isn't it? But, it's bronze and it's all like worn off now on this goat because everyone, rubs its balls for good luck.
For good luck.
Well, unfortunately, we're not all world traveller pluses like you, so I've never been to New York, so I haven't fondled any scrotums.
Just because I like to make this an educational podcast as well, a quick Google search tells me that the US Navy mascot is a goat due to a long history of keeping goats on ships for practical reasons. Tom, you may be able to confirm that. They were historically a source of fresh meat and fresh milk and meat for sailors on long voyages and were considered resilient maritime companions. There is also a story about Bill the goat, which is the one specifically for the Navy team, who apparently, popular story claims, that in the early days of the team, he wandered onto the pitch and was seen as a lucky charm helping them win, which is why they now have the goat as a mascot. Or don't, apparently, because he's been retired. But hey.
Bollocks. Bollocks. Absolute. I've never ever partook in anything with a goat on board a war canoe. I don't know where that has come from. Penguins, maybe from the South Georgian Islands. Dealt with them, but no goats, scrotums,
or a whale.
No. I
think it was probably before your time, to be fair, when it was a lot harder to take actual meat and milk onto ships. I think hopefully you had a fridge on there when you were on the ships. This is probably dated back a while.
Yeah, we did have a fridge, but the food was still shite. You think about it, you'd see, for months, come 2-3 weeks, you're eating frozen food and everything's with potatoes.
Probably should have taken a goat on there then, so you get some fresh milk and meat.
I can't. Ollie's got them all locked away. in his goat dungeon. So I mean, obviously, Ollie, you're gonna want to go back to Baltimore, aren't you?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely. And like even with all like the sort of, it could have been a really bad trip, but the gentleman that sort of organised the trip then at Touchdown Trips did a stellar job of making sure me and Dad were well looked after. I mean, he was on the phone to me whilst they were like taxiing down the runway trying to sort everything out. So yeah, big ups to them.
Fair play.
Yeah, I'll have to go back.
Go back next year on the lads trip.
I'll see if I'm allowed.
The art of negotiation you need to learn, Ollie. Right, I think we'll wrap up. We've covered everything. Obviously, it's only a short episode. Obviously, the Ravens again. Whenever is it Sunday again? We're on next week.
Yeah, nice little mini bye this time.
Yeah, so obviously, and the US clocks go back this week, don't they? So we're back to a 6 o'clock kickoff next week.
They've already gone back at 6 o'clock games this week.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Cheers, Father Time.
So yeah, look, being good to have us all back together again. Obviously, like, follow, subscribe, give the pod a listen, leave a comment, negative or positive, it all helps. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Always Across the Pond. No, not Always Across the Pond, that's my other podcast, but go and give them a follow and a like as well. Ravens Across the Pond on all social media networks. Richard, Nathan, DT, John Candy. If I had a fish image now, I'd put it on because we've just got one hell of a bite. I might have to go and ask the missus to do some chips and curry sauce there. Got a fish for tea. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the pod. We have been Ravens Across the Pond. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.